All right, welcome to lesson 60 of 84. We're kind of seeing the end right now of our year, second year H Radio 223 part timers. Very short lesson, this one. So, part three of nine of promotions and cube builders, with all references happening at chapter 6.2 with Fubbi 214 in the next level radio textbook. Right. So, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. This is quite easy. We're going to go through a little bit of a methodology that's going to help you with your, like I say, your promotions and your marketing strategies. And it is, as you know, called Fubby. Even though you see there immediately that it means funny, useful, beautiful, and inspiring, there's an extra B there that's added. So, we're going to say Fubby instead of Fubi, right? So, what makes engaging radio? Once again, we know that that is when you evoke emotions, right? Engaging radio allows a listener to really feel all kinds of their feelings, right? Right. So, we're talking again. We'll go from the far range of happiness and joy to all the way of sadness, rage, and frustration, whatever it may be, right? And as a medium, and a communication medium, we need to obviously cover like all those aspects because that's what a human being does in their everyday life. So we want to engage with them as their lifestyle reflects in the everyday world. Okay, this also goes once again according to our promotions and our and on our advertising, our whatever it is, our activations once again. But this you already know. So we hold the listener's attention when they are emotionally connected to a piece of content. This is not an easy task as different listeners react emotionally to different types of content. You're going to say to me, but there's like our listenership, it comprises of hundreds of thousands of listeners at a time, tens of thousands of listeners at a time, or thousands of thousands listeners at a time. But we all can say in a more general point of view, and this is true for all of us, right? Doesn't matter. There are things that obviously segment us, like I said, race, age, classism, sex. There's various factors that obviously make the differentiation very obvious, but we all have career career objectives, and we have money problems, and we have families, and we love people, or we hate people, or we have conflict within ourselves and within our social circles. We are on social media, we are struggling with self-identity. There's a lot of things that um put us together on the same map, in many different ways. If you look at, let's say, how many people might enjoy skiing and how many people might enjoy surfing, versus how many people like to play soccer or watch soccer, to others that like to maybe be artists, draw, they might paint, they might, only like to go and admire art. So there are segmented aspects of lifestyle that we don't share exactly always. But the thing is that there's a large amount of people that form different clubs. And the thing is, we can appeal to those different clubs at different aspects of our programming, right? If we understand which lifestyle choices our our obviously audience is making, and that's through our research, etc. Right. So one study was conducted by the Emotional Intelligence Agency, which you've heard of before in a previous lesson. In order for radio stations to obtain the shared information of emotion, the EIA study determined that the four kinds of emotion are: one, funny content; useful content; beautiful content; and aspiring content, or inspiring content, should I say. So this is where the term, this is pronounced Fubi, but you'll see once again where the extra B comes in just a moment. It falls within the obviously the same sect as beautiful, right? So the following figure, let's go from top right all the way down to bottom right. We'll go clockwise, right? Funny. What ways can we engage our audience that is, it's like it's humorous. There's a bit of parody, as it says there. Any slapstick comedy that we put together, satire, which is a little different. It's a bit of a play on something that's more realistic or whatever it may be. Potty humor, right? So a little bit of like obviously dirty humor. And then there's that black dark humor that we can also tune into or like hone into, depending on which audience it appeals to, right? If we look at useful aspects in lifestyle, and we can obviously again remember this is all going towards promotions, and at the end of the day, but looking at content development and delivery, it's still it's still the core of any promotions and any like I say activations that we do. Consumer reviews, right? Consumer reviews, very helpful, social good. So the way that we are obviously, we can see the communities are helping one another, or the radio station is deciding to step in and help a single person or a bunch of people. News analysis as well as news updates, and then wonder, right? So what do we want to know? Things that we don't even know we want to know, but we can, share that information and definitely enlighten our users, now our listeners' lives, right? Inspiring things like ideas, spiritual well-being, weird, anything that's weird, funny, like weird and a bit like odd, is always interesting. Biographical, very informative as well. And also, again, inspiring because we see other people's successes and success stories or origin stories and heartwarming stuff that tugs at your strings and your emotional aspect or your quota. Emotional, yeah. Okay, is that emotional quota? Yeah, your EQ, right? Okay. Anyway, right, and then on the far side here, beautiful, sensational or sensual, pop, extravagant, minimalist, and cute. Minimalist obviously means us, like for example, looking at something in its base value. So we obviously know about the minimalistic movement of art, and the way that artists decide to express the world around them is not something that's so elevated and so extravagant, just to kind of put the complete opposite of what extravagant expression of style and art and whatever it is, pop culture, to minimalistic point of views of wanting to maybe look at the aspects of what considers zen and that type of lifestyle as well. Okay, all right. So here's where the extra B comes in. And so we start pronouncing it as Fubbi, right, with an extra B, which represents bold. Every piece of audio content that is created needs to be Fubbi. It either needs to be fun, useful, bold, right? So taking a chance, making a statement. Is the additional part of that, right? Bold, being brave, making, like I said, like having a real voice for the population, for the people out there, and the station must represent new thoughts, movements, that type of stuff. Beautiful, inspiring, and if your content satisfies the Fubby standards, well, it's more likely to have an emotional connection with the listener. So when you do come up with content, we do come up with again content development for promotions, right? Check the list here and say, is it fun? Is it useful? Is it bold? Is it beautiful? Or is it inspiring? All the following types of content must be put through the Fubby filter. So this means that the content must be measured up against what I just said. Try and make sure that you put it through a bit of a litmus test, right? So promotions at contest, are they Fubby friendly? Without these aspects, it would be a challenging to engage someone who is listening to be entertained, right? So again, look at your simplest, your simplest or your simple ideas to more like a more extravagant, like I say, more. There's a couple of more dimensions again of what you want to do in terms of, like I say, the way that you want to run a promotion and execute and roll it out, right? If the content satisfies the FUBI standards, it's more than likely to once again achieve that emotional connection. It's going to really sit well with them. It's going to hit home, and it's going to definitely have some kind of lasting effect, right? So make sure that the contest is fun or passive listeners to play along with. An example is a quiz with questions that are easy enough to answer, but they are obviously like it's an achievement. You feel like you've achieved something when you have answered it for yourself in the car, right? You might actually answer 5 out of 5, where the listener on air might only have gotten 3 out of 4 or 5, whatever it is. And so the listener likes to take part, but even if they get 1 out of 5 and 0 out of 5, it doesn't matter. They learned something. You give them the answers on air, and They go, oh, okay, I didn't really know that, right? Okay. So, radio promotions, let's have a look at on-air promotions and contests that are used with the aim to draw in new listeners and get current listeners to tune in more. Remember, the new listener has to be of the same demographic that is part of your ICASA license, right? So that's from Geller's book on page 343. But how does it work if the vast majority of listeners are tuning in for the entertainment elements such as music or the information like news or the personalities? That's pretty easy, right? This is an extra element, right? An extra element of entertainment that forms our collective product as a radio station or the radio medium, right? So it doesn't take any attention off anything else. It's something that we add like we did when we added the digital space and social media that in content that we share with our listeners, and that makes it a much broader and a richer, once again, a three-dimensional product. Radio promotions work to achieve some, if not all, of the following four objectives. One, to entertain the passive listener and get them to listen for longer and talk about the content. We want that water cooling effect. We want them to go to their brother or their sister or their friend, and it must sit in their mind, because we've now captivated some kind of new train of thought, some interest. We've obviously informed them of something new, and they go and they share that conversation with someone else. A radio promotion, on the other hand, could be very exciting, right? And exciting, and they can go talk about that and say, "Wow, this is a great thing that's happening on whatever station, BMH radio, and it was so funny what they made them do." Or the listener was so great, I'll never forget her or him or whatever it may be, right? To engage research participants and to get them playing along and therefore listening for longer and talking about the content, right? Once again, so the engagement part, right? To engage the research participants, right? And then getting them to play along, right? Okay. So to create platforms of engagement for brands and advertisers, once of course one of course on the on-air platform, but off air we have to make this live longer, 24 hours, pretty much again using our let's say our digital, obviously, but if we have a TV aspect, we have some kind of print media that we do want to obviously extend that to, we're going to go and we're going to make that live longer with new aspects of new dimensions to what we are creating on air, right? To gather detailed data on listeners to benefit both the station and its advertisers. We want to do a little bit of a post-mortem feedback report to the sponsor or the advertiser. At the end of the day, they also want to know like what really worked, what type of listeners we got there, what was the major response, which were the busy days, like what did they actually click on with the advertisements that were on our website. What was the engagement or the impressions versus the impressions of, let's say, social media advertising? And we've got to give those reports so that the listener, the client, should I say, should be happier. Hopefully, there's a happy response there, right? Okay, right. Second. All right. Sorry, I just had to quickly check something there. Okay. All right, and then we can obviously get some more business. All right. Okay, the second way promotions work is by capturing the attention of the most important type of listener, the passive listener, because they're in the majority. Active listeners are in a very small percentage. Once again, what is a passive listener? A person that doesn't really enter the competitions, doesn't send text or voice notes. They're just listening because it's part of their lifestyle and part of their day. And there's very, like I say, small percentage of the active listeners that do call in, that do share share their voice notes or their thoughts. They do interact on social media, or they, like I say, that they're active, right? The third way promotions work is by benefiting advertisers, of course. Like that should be our prime objective, actually. I know that one shouldn't be more important than the other, but this is what obviously keeps your lights and water running, right? So, promotions and contests are often sold to advertisers as they can offer brands, the following benefits. Let's have a look. One, greater on-air audience participation. The more a person or listener engages with a product, that is a sponsor for a certain activation on air, it's going to sit in their minds. That subliminal messaging and that subliminal setting that is going to make them think, oh, well, I mean, if this was sponsored by, let's say, Checkers, like I might go and find out more about the specials that they did mention on air. And next time I walk past a Checkers or try to choose between, let's say, a Pick and Pay and a Checkers, maybe I want to go look at Checkers because Checkers is really now spotlighted on one of my favorite radio stations and, etc. Right. Okay. So brand awareness is what we're talking about. Embedded brand messaging in the radio editorial, right? So that's obviously with our scripts and our live reads, etc., and the way that we work in the product into the execution of the competition. So maybe making, let's say, like a multiple choice or answer the question around the product that is from our sponsor or the client that is working with us, right? Various engaging ways to highlight new products. So once again, we can definitely, highlight them in the what again like an answering a question, or we can let's say that we've got these products in studio or we are giving them out on the streets and you got to if you got one like and you are with let's say street crew like we want they're going to call us and we're going to have a bit of a like a Red Bull together, whatever it is. They'll taste the new mango Red Bull and tell us what you think. If you give it any thumbs up, we're going to give you a prize. Just give us a review. But we know you're going to like it, we're going to love it, whatever it is. And let's take a morning breakfast shot, a Red Bull shot, something like that. Good communication of short-term objectives, right? Which is, I think, quite straightforward. I don't have to explain further than that. Creation of strong positive brand association. So, the station to the listener, to the client, to the actual brand and product or service that they are trying to promote, we're trying to promote well, needs to be something healthy, something that is beneficial to the listener, beneficial to the client at the same time, beneficial to the station at the end of the day. Listeners can be directed to a point of purchase. So don't forget, go online, go check out the specials, the Christmas specials, the Black Friday specials on whatever it is .co.za. Finally, promotions work because data capturing has become a vitally important part of promotions and contesting, right? Why? We need to just like we have our own RAMs, like clients need to have their own their own compilation of of basically data revenue, right? So every radio station promotion should be evaluated against the following criteria. One, is it going to increase ratings, right? Two, is it going to create awareness? Will it keep established? Will it help, should I say, establish a personal relationship with the station and its loyal listeners? And will it generate sales revenue? Right. Remember, Fubbi, go ahead and try this for yourself. So while you're listening to the lesson afterwards, you need to incorporate it into everything that you do this week, right? So try little small case studies of Fubbi. Is it fun? Is it wrong word useful? Wrong word. Is it bold? Is it beautiful? Right. Is it, oof, man, I was going to say, is it inspiring? There we go. I was working according to this thing, getting confused, right? So, funny, useful, bold, beautiful, and inspiring, right? Okay. Don't look at me. I'm much older. Your memory should be better. All right. Have a great one. I hope that was useful. You can go ahead and have a look at this particular link here, and then we can chat in lesson 61. Have a good one.